Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo!
Hello. Before this episode officially begins, I needed to let you know that on Saturday, June 10th, I am hosting a body image healing workshop here at my home in Lower Westchester, New York. If you are in the area, or if you want to travel to New York for a fun weekend and a very intense, healing, emotionally, spiritual, bonding, supportive day to get to the root of why you struggle to see yourself as valuable when you look in the mirror and why you feel the need to constantly be changing the way that you look in order to be worthy of love and acceptance, and you finally want to feel good about yourself, what you see, how you feel, everything about your body. You want to learn how to appreciate it, how to treat it with kindness and care, and just value it for the incredible thing that it actually is. And if you're struggling to do that because of maybe a history of disordered eating, or a history of body shaming, whether you were made fun of as a kid or you just live in this world where everything is constantly being filtered and constantly shown as what perceives to be as quote unquote beautiful, and you just don't feel like you fit in, you need to be there for this workshop. Like, you absolutely need to be there. Now, because we're only having a select amount of people and because it's at my home, and I really want to make sure that it is an intimate space, a safe space where you can share and process, I am requiring that we just have a quick call beforehand just to make sure that it is a good fit for everybody that's going to be in the room. So what I want you to do is text the words body confidence to 914-219-6446. Again, text body confidence to 914-219-6446 if you are interested in finding out more details about the Body Image Healing Workshop, to answer any questions you have, and we will also likely set up a call. So if you're interested in learning more about the Body Image Healing Workshop, text Body Confidence to 914-219-6446. I hope to connect with you soon. Now, enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm super excited for today's conversation because we're going to talk more on the mental health side of things. And we're going to be talking, and I'm going to be speaking with Faust Ruggiero. I hope I said the last name right. I never do last names, so you should feel very special. I usually just skip them altogether. And he's going to be talking to us about how to take control of your anxiety. And he'll probably let you know a little bit more about how anxiety recently has been running rampant. And I think it means that we just need to educate ourselves better so that we can get in charge of it. So, Faust, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tony. I'm thrilled to be here.
So happy to have you. We always start off, the first question is a 3-part question. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners by sharing who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Faust Ruggiero. I am a psychologist. I've been in practice about 4 decades, about the last 33 in private practice. Individual, family, marriage, drug and alcohol. I kind of cross all the lines. 3 years ago, I put the first book out. That was called the Fix Yourself Handbook. I wanted to do something different, where as opposed to one topic, I hit 36 different topics in the book. Kept the chapters short, gave people a roadmap in terms of what to do with those. We're getting ready now to publish the second book, which is the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. And I'm thrilled to be here because I'm watching what you're doing. And, a question I get with the anxiety book is, well, what is anxiety? And I keep telling them it's a physical condition first. And what we do to our bodies has a whole lot to do with our mental health. So when I hear you talk about nutrition and all the things we need to keep the body where it needs to be, it fits right into my flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so Wow. So you've been in the field for a while. You've probably seen, have heard a lot of things. What made you get into psychology in the first place?
That's one of those things where when I was a kid, I think it just flowed naturally. Sometimes people go out and try to find what they want to do. And mine found me real quick, real early. So I was that kid that everybody listened to. So I knew probably in my junior year of high school, I was going to go to college for psychology. And once I got there, I said, this is the fit. This is who I am. I like helping people. I like being with people, so that healing aspect of things, I like being part of that. So I've been doing it ever since, came out of grad school and worked in everything from clinics to prisons to, kids and then went into private practice. So I'm, still doing it 4 decades later.
Yeah. Wow. So what makes you keep going back to it? Because I'm learning more and more about myself that as much as I love what I do and I'm so passionate about what I do, I can never just do this. I have to I got my real estate license. I've been doing a bazillion other things because how do you stay so in love with it? You clearly have to be passionate about something.
Well, I am, but I'm passionate about everything I do in my life. Yeah. So, I was play baseball when I was young. So almost 30 years ago, I put together a program, a fan development kind of thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm still doing that. I'm writing. So I do a lot of different things. I have a lot of passions, if you will. So it's not, out of the question for me to put together a 12 or 13 hour day. That's really typical for me, and again, I'm doing what I need to do physically. So my body says, okay, I'm coming, let's do this, so, you keep going, you put in your life what's going to work for you and what makes you feel good. So then I can always come back to, the bread and butter, if you will, and still say, this still feels good. I still like seeing people, and I saw them right through the pandemic, I'm not doing a ton of it online. I'll do some, but most of what I do is still office people.
Nice. Very, very nice. Awesome. Okay. Well, so the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook is coming out soon, or is it out now? When
we're getting real close now. We're discussing things. End of the month, we'll start putting together the initial publishing format. The manuscript's done. It's been edited. It's out there. It's publicized, everything. So now we're getting ready to the point where very, very soon people will go on Amazon and say, "Oh, there's a second book there now."
Nice, right? And your first book is what? What was your first?
Fix Yourself Handbook.
Book Yourself Handbook.
What we did is turn the Fix Yourself Handbook into a series. So it's going to be the fix and then whatever it is. This is anxiety. We're going to do one on depression. We're going to do one on the discrimination, families, all that kind of stuff. We're going to, and they'll all follow the same design. So the readers will say, okay, I'm going to flow right into the same design every time, through all the books in the series.
Wow. That's really, really great. Thank you for creating that. I know it's not easy to write a book. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done, pretty much to date. Yeah. So that's really, really great. All right. So let's talk about anxiety. You kind of mentioned a little bit about what it is. I feel like people who've experienced it know what it is, but are there different, when you teach about anxiety, I want to hear what it is, but there's definitely different levels, from personal experience and from seeing other people. So I feel like some people might not even realize that they potentially could be struggling with anxiety if it's kind of in the quote unquote lower level, right? If you're having a panic attack, you clearly have anxiety, but there's definitely, I feel like there's stuff that bubbles up until that point.
Everyone has a bit of anxiety and we manage it all well if we can. But what happens is after we let it go and we add things to our lives, we do the wrong things, it continues to bubble, it simmers, and then it starts to get to be something that's difficult to deal with. It starts really physically, I tell this to people all the time. They'll say, well, no, it's mental thing. I'm worrying. I said, no, by the time it works its way through, it's gone physical. It hits your emotions. Now it gets your brain. Your brain knows that things are going on and you start attaching it to all different things that you think are the problem. But the key is to get it back to your body and slow the body down first. I've never met a person who's come into my office with anxiety, and I see many people with anxiety. I've never seen one yet where if we didn't work the body first and get them to calm down, things didn't start to get better.
Okay.
So we
Can you
always
give an example of like what that would be or what that would look like?
The first thing I do is I say we're going to start purging, and they'll look and say, well, I'm not sure what you mean by it. So, well, let's see what you're doing wrong for your body. I say, when you get up in the morning, how many cups of coffee do you have? I'll start there.
Right.
And they'll look, there's nothing wrong with coffee. And I'll say, yeah, except it's an accelerant. And if you have anxiety, you're fueling that demon along is what you're doing.
Right.
Are you having the energy drinks? Are you then, are you sleeping well? Are you putting anything else into your body? You're a dietitian. You know what happens when you put the wrong foods into your body. Every food has a particular a function, a particular route it takes in your body, and it does something for your body. It affects your metabolism. It affects the way you think. It affects the way you feel. So then we start going over diet. And I said, okay, let's start putting you on a good diet. And we put that into the picture. We'll get into things like breathing and meditation or those things if that's necessary. We calm the body down first. Now, in some instances, they'll come in and maybe there's abuse or there's we're losing the house. We're going into bankruptcy. Okay, there's some real legitimate things there. And we're going to deal with those too. We're not just going to sidestep those issues.
Right.
But we do want to make sure that people understand that real healthy people will get anxiety, but they don't often get anxiety attacks. If you weaken your body, you're more prone to what's going to happen to you with anxiety.
Yeah. So, okay. So, well, and what we physically eat can definitely affect our gut health, which can affect our emotional well-being and all of that stuff.
Right.
So I guess, what are some like general tips if someone so maybe they've done that, maybe they do have a healthy diet, because also to the opposite of it, what we see often, like what we work with a lot of clients who struggle with either like they might be on the verge of an eating disorder or have a history of an eating disorder, where sometimes the rigidity of the restriction actually causes gut health issues, which then leads to anxiety. So sometimes it's like they're eating what you would consider quote unquote healthy, but there's so much misalignment and there's so much pressure of being perfect and all of the things that come with it, that physically they're actually making themselves unwell. And then mentally, they're also making themselves unwell. So like, what tips do you have for someone that is really struggling with just like maybe like a generalized anxiety, maybe not panic attacks per se, but just like the overthinking, the worry,
we've evolved to a society that is so mental health conscious that people are evaluating themselves and that everything they're determining how it affects my mental health. We are so obsessed with it that we're getting sick over it. And what I've told people is it's like anything else. If you decide, geez, I'm going to go and I'm going to go into the workout program and I'm going to go in and work out. You don't want to get intense. You're going to overwork your body. Your joints. You're not going to build muscle properly. You're going to calmly go in and it's going to be a program you're going to develop for the long run. That's what mental health is. There are no shortcuts. It's like, I'm sure you have the people that come in and have been through 20 diets and they can't understand why they're not working because they're not designed to.
Right. Exactly.
And so if we're going to overemphasize the way we think and feel, we're going to become obsessed with that. And then we're going to overdo things. We're going to stress ourselves out. Then we're going to make sure we eat. I mean, I have people coming in, they're measuring food in cups. And oh my God. They say, and I mean, I'm 68. I graduated high school with 5 feet 8 inches tall and 152 pounds. 50 years later, I weigh exactly the same thing I do. And they say, well, how do you maintain it? I said, I just do the same thing calmly every day.
Calm. The keyword calm.
So do you get on a scale? I said, when I go to a yearly wellness thing, and other than that, no, I do not.
Yeah.
Do you read all the, I said, I keep up on nutrition, but calmly, I make very small adjustments if necessary. My vitamins are where they need to be, basic stuff, but it's calm. And I never think about anything. It's just, and that's where I'm trying to get them to go, to get to a program and just calmly stay there and live that way. But we're a quick fix society. We like it real fast. And as soon as we don't see the effects, right away, we start trying, you either abandon it or we start adding new things. and we tinker with things. And before you know it, the program is not what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Another thing you mentioned before was like, maybe like you might be doing things that could potentially be making the anxiety worse. And what came to me was like, drugs and alcohol, like especially like alcohol is very like, it's like considered socially normal to come home and have a glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine or have a beer, a couple beers, and then drink on the weekends and all this stuff. And then they have like what they call like the Sunday scaries, like when it's time to come to, work the next day on Monday. And it's partly, because now you had this freedom and now you have to go back to your 9 to 5, but also it's like you also just drink a lot of alcohol. And like, I'm just curious on like the research behind like substance use and anxiety. And I think it would be really helpful for people to hear, because I am one that believes in balance, and I do like a glass. I do drink moderately, but I'm mindful about it because there's a fine line there. And it's also, I don't think it should be as like society makes it very normal. And it just doesn't seem like the healthiest coping mechanism.
It's not. And society not only makes it normal, it pressures us into thinking we need to do that. And it's interesting, the drugs that we are using to be calm, escape, recreation, they're not helping us in the long run because they treat symptoms. They don't treat the disorder, if you will. Anxiety is something that has to be treated with a program. Alcohol has its own things that it does, whether it's affecting gut health, whether what it's doing to one's esophagus, depending on the person, and depending on how much they drink and when they drink. I have people that come in and they'll drink 5 or 6 beers or a bottle of wine at night, and they'll say, I'm not feeling good. That's that's going to start. That's actually going to start the anxiety train going, is what it's going to do.
Yeah.
Because it wears the body down. The effect on the cells in the brain from alcohol are not good. It's just the case. Now we're adding marijuana to the case. Everyone is saying, well, it's medicinal. And that's ridiculous. That was a great selling point for another recreational drug. And we will eventually see the side effects, the bad effects, if you will, from that drug. It's one thing if someone says, well, I take a little bit when I get anxious. I got that. That's not what occurs. These people are taking this every single day. And, the effect on consciousness, the effect on our ability to reason through things, to make good decisions, which we need if we're going to deal with anxiety and general health, for that matter, is going to be affected. So again, come home and you want to have a glass of wine at night, not a big problem. When it gets to 2 or 3, and then you're not willing to miss your glass of wine, that's an issue.
Right. The dependence.
Right.
I think that's the bigger question.
Right.
You feel dependent on it.
And dependence doesn't mean I'm going to go into, DTs or whatever. Dependence means I think I need to do that, or every night that's part of my routine. This is what I do, and I don't want to miss that. And I have people, they'll need to go out. Usually they'll maybe drink at 8 or 9 o'clock. Then they're out to a meeting or somewhere, and it's 10 o'clock, and they come home and they still have to have the 2 glasses of wine because that's part of the evening. That's a dependence.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, so let's talk about how why heal anxiety? What would be the benefits to, why do we want to get a hold on it? What's the opposite side of someone who's not living an anxious life? What can they, what are the benefits to heal, like fixing your anxiety?
Well, let me say it this way. You mentioned you're a person who likes balance. The Fix Yourself handbook is about, the major theme is internal balance: physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. Those are our attributes. And so what would the person who doesn't have all the anxiety look like? Physically, we feel calm. We're not challenged with the intensity that anxiety can bring along. Emotionally, we're not all over the place. We're not up and down. We're not reacting quickly and intensely. Intellectually, we have clarity of thought. We're able to look at information, make decisions that are logical based on the information that we're getting. And spiritually, we're connected to with whatever we feel is that inner core. We look for those things. A balanced person is working to balance those four things. And it doesn't mean you're perfect every day. It just means whatever you do tries to keep that balance. So that person who isn't challenged by anxiety is going to be more tranquil, if you will. Is able to they're not going to react real fast. You'll notice that in society now, something on the news, everyone reacts and their arms are up and they're screaming, and that shouldn't happen. We should hear things. We should say, well, let's take a step back. Let's look at the facts. Let's make some good, intelligent decisions. That's what a brain that's working well does. Emotions don't override the brain. It's another thing I talk about. It's intellect over emotions. Not that you don't get emotional. You just get your intellect first. You get that into play. So that's what that looks like. All systems are operating efficiently.
Yeah.
Physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. They're operating efficiently. And when they are, then you have the time to just say, you know what, I'm going to go out. We're going to go out and I'll probably drink a little extra tonight. Okay. But you know, you're going to snap back into form tomorrow.
Right.
It's that balance that we talk about.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I was thinking about, like, I feel like when I've been in like very anxious states, I will make like very impulsive decisions. And my therapist once pointed out to me that sometimes my anxiety can look like OCD. And then I heard, and like, I feel like right now, like ADHD is, I hate to say it, but it's very trendy. Like everyone talks about having ADHD, which it's like, do they have ADHD? Like it's become like a TikTok phenomenon. And like, even like coaches, like calling themselves ADHD coaches and blah, blah, blah. I would love for you to just speak about maybe the differences between anxiety, OCD, and ADHD, and how maybe sometimes it might look like one, but can be the other.
Yeah. You know, and that's where, you know, you really want the initial diagnosis is so important. And we have a lot of coaches out there who are not skilled in doing any of this. They've taken a 6-month course and came back.
Yeah, we get that in the dietitian space is the same thing. Like registered dietitians, it requires a minimum of 5 years of schooling to get all degrees. And then you have nutrition coaches that get a weekend certification and are claiming themselves as experts. As
a coach. And that, so we're inundated with that. Most of them, almost all of them are online. And then so what they're saying, oh yeah, based upon what you told me, you have ADD. And if I can tell you how the population that has ADD is so much lower than being diagnosed. We just don't. We do things that mimic ADD. You know, if you drink a lot, you're going to get up the next day and not be able to focus so well. If you drink a lot all the time, be there. So anxiety, essentially, to answer your question, anxiety will present as an intensity. It just grabs you and you want to jump out of your skin. It can get to that point, or just the kind of thing where you just can't sit still, or your mind is going on to something else because, you know, it's now got, well, for example, I'm doing an interview with you. If I have anxiety, I'm thinking, I got a client that's going to follow this, and tonight I've got to get that done. Oh man, tomorrow morning. Now I'm thinking about all these
You're not like in the moment. You're
just not in the moment. You're anxious because your mind is trying to grab too much. Right? If it were ADD, it didn't matter whether I was calm or I had something else going on. The moment something, for example, if you and I are talking and, you know, as you said, my cat comes in the door, now I'm over here and then I'm thinking, what were we talking about? And even if you bring me back, I got to say, okay, where am I going with this? Because I just can't bring my brain back to point.
Right.
That's ADD. That's the person that picks up the paper and, you know, reads a one-page paper, and at the end they can't tell you what they read because while they're reading it, their mind went to something else. Or the kid in school who looked out the window because a truck went by and now that lost the discussion that the teacher was presenting. That's ADD.
Got it.
You know? So, you know, OCD, we all can be obsessive in our thinking, you know, depending on the subject matter. Some people, as soon as something gets in front of them, however, it's like a vice grip. They get on that, and then their mind just stays there. Now, that's the obsessive part. The compulsive part says, I have to act on it. I must. I always tell the story of a woman I had in counseling, and one day she came in and there was a little piece of, someone must have done something with a tissue, it dropped a little piece, but she picked it up and put it on my desk. And I caught that. I didn't say anything. So the next week before she came in, I dropped it over the top of the desk, a piece of paper over the drop.
Yeah.
Well, now she picks it up again. The third week, the same thing goes on. And she says, what is it with the paper? And I just said, does it really bother you? She says, yes. And I said, I know. Well, I put it there the past 2 weeks. So I could tell her about her OCD, which she thought she didn't have. Okay?
Yeah.
So it says, I think it, I feel it, I've got to do something about it. That's OCD.
Right.
And again, all of these have their own levels of intensity.
Yeah.
It might be the kind of thing where, I'm sitting here and saying, geez, the laundry is in there. I know I want to get that done. Before I go to bed, I'm going to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
Minor. I have to sweep the living room floor 3 times a day. Different story.
Yeah. I hear you. So I think in today's society where like productivity is kind of like, I think people can get obsessed with it. Like, I don't know I want to ask this question, but like, I feel like if the person is being productive, then anxiety is considered like normal and okay. And then it sometimes can get like very like overmissed. Like, it becomes acceptable. I feel like if the person's like, a CEO and like making millions of dollars, but they're dying inside, like somehow it's like praise, but then it's like anxiety can also come up in forms and make someone like overwhelmed. And potentially, I would love actually for you to speak on like how it can connect to depression. I've heard that. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes you can be so anxious that it looks or feels like depression, So I would love for you to just kind of speak on that. Like, when does it become problematic, or is it always problematic, or, where's the line?
2 things. There are people that judge their own life by their productivity, and they will do whatever they need to be productive, and they're causing their own anxiety. But we also live in a society that judges what we do, how we do it, how far we're going, how much money we make, what we own, all that kind of thing. And so now we believe that we have to go do all these things. And if not, someone is going to say, you're not measuring up. Right. So now we put the pressure on ourselves to accomplish things. And productivity kind of disguises anxiety, because we can say in our minds, well, this is what I need to do to get there, and I'm going to put that time in, not realizing it. Some people don't do that, and they still get there. So how are they doing it? Well, they have a balance in their life, but we assume that if we don't really put it out there and other people see that we're productive, or we get to that goal that we have, that we're not producing, and the anxiety comes from being locked into that mindset. That's what it really is, because it's not about doing it every day. It's that you can't shut it off.
Right.
Now I'm sitting and being non-productive. Now I thought I'd throw TV on, or I'm going to have those 2 glasses of wine. I can't do this. If I do, well, shame on me. Here comes the guilt, whatever it may be. So it never turns off. That's the problem. That's the person that leaves the office and takes it home, whether it's the office drama or the work that has to be done the next day, or this assignment, or whatever it may be. So it disguises.
That's very common.
It's very, very common.
Like, we work with clients all the time where they'll just, that's exactly what they'll say. And then they struggle with emotional eating and binging because they're so just mentally drained, like completely drained. And, the only thing we can help you from, we do help with the physical side. It's a big component, but then there's a point where the physical is not enough. You have to set boundaries. You have to close the laptop. You have to just, it's going to be okay. Like, you gotta like create space to breathe and to do nothing. And it's okay to do nothing. And one coach or mentor said to me once, doing nothing is something, or I forget, I think that was the phrase. Like, doing nothing is something. Like, there's productivity in doing nothing.
What I tell people to do is work with your conscious mind. Ask yourself, what do I need to accomplish today? How much time do I need to do that? And be realistic. Get to the point where when you get to that point, then you're right. Close the laptop, do what you need to do. Also, I tell them that you must program downtime into your day.
Yes.
So I know that my days are going to be those 12-hour days. I'm very comfortable there because I'm paced all the way through it.
Yeah.
I don't run like a crazy person through it. I don't set unrealistic goals. I know that I'm going to get up and start doing these things. And at the end of the day, it might be 7 or 8 o'clock. That's okay. But then I'm done. And my mind already knows I'm going to watch a movie or do something just to relax. My wife and I'll sit in the living room and just relax. And I look forward to that time. And then it's done. At the end of the day, I know before I do go to bed, I'm fortunate to have a hot tub, and I'll go in the hot tub and I'll sit and relax. The last thing I do, and I'm just ready for bed and ready to go. So it's all set out for me.
Yeah.
So then I just plug into those things. But these people aren't setting the boundaries. But the key isn't in the boundary. The key is in the planning. This is what I do. This is realistic. How much can I do? And it's not just work. It's work. It's the kids, it's the house, it's whatever.
Managing a bazillion things.
Right, that's all this stuff, and we're trying, and that's the overscheduling part of it. Well, now I have to take the kids to soccer, and of course I volunteered to be a soccer coach or whatever it may be, and I said, well, I said, you're trying to fit 15 hours of awake time into a 10-hour day. Right. Every day you're going to feel like you didn't do a good job. Right. What you are doing isn't going to be done to its optimal level because you're not putting enough of you into it. And then you're going to burn out and you're going to be miserable. And then you're going to drink a little more or maybe eat a little more because that's a comfort food. You know what they eat. It's not like you go in and say, let me make a good keto diet here. You're going to go in and get starches and whatever it does. And you're going to continue to feed the beast. So it's about realistically setting your day up and then plugging yourself into that day.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Okay. So we spoke a little bit to the kind of like the productive anxious person, but what does it look like if someone's in a pattern of being maybe like unproductive and not happy due to their anxiety?
You know what? You can see all the external things. They're rushing. But here's the thing I look for is their language. I want to see how they're speaking about their world, and I also ask them how they're talking to themselves, because people that are anxious, people that are working with negative energy, so to speak, they'll talk about what they didn't do, what they can't do, what they're not accomplishing, how they don't like their life. And when you do that, you're actually, language expresses what we think, but it also controls what we think. So if I'm doing that to myself every day and I'm negative, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a negative world. Then I'm going to look for escapes. That's where we find all those quick fixes. So I'm looking for those things in people. Are you appreciative? Are you grateful? Are you feeling good about your day? Are you programming things into your day that feel good? Are you passionate about what you're doing? Or is your day a survival day? I just got to get through today. Let me get through to the weekend where I can, do this. They're setting destinations also. Instead of enjoying the ride, they're setting destinations. When I just get this done and I get over there, I'll be okay. And we know that's never going to happen because when you get there, it's not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like. So I'm looking for all those kinds of quick fixes and all those kinds of escape measures, all those things that tell me that a person isn't happy with the daily moments of their life.
Yeah, that was really powerful. You said the language dictates their thought. What did you say? Your language dictates
language expresses what you feel, but it also tells your mind what to think. It tells it controls what the brain thinks. If I say to myself, I'm not a good person. I'm lousy at that. I'm never going to measure up to everyone else. I hate my world. Well, that's what your mind is being programmed to listen to every day. It's a form of self-abuse is really what it is. So, it's about, and I'm not telling people to go tell yourself you're wonderful. I'm saying the first order of business is stop that. And it's going to come up. This is autopilot thinking. It comes up routinely all the time. When you see it, stop it. I'm not going there. Then I tell them to look at something in the present environment, something that makes them feel good. I got my new computer. That's wonderful. And then talk about that. This makes me feel real good. I'm going to do these things with it. Keep on putting positives in there. You may say, I'm not happy with this part of myself, but I'm going to get a plan to change that. And these are the things I'm going to do. Start moving forward, positive thoughts.
Like solution-oriented thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, you got to get away from the angry, divisive, the language that just tears you down. You just got to get away from that. And it's not that difficult. What I've told people is if you programmed your mind to think that way, then your mind gets programmed. Why don't you program it to do it the other way?
Right.
Your mind will respond.
Yeah.
But it's going to take time.
Yeah. You got to practice it. It was just like fake it till you make it. Like at first you might have to just even if you feel like you believe it and it's hard to shut it off, just shut it off anyway.
Learning is a function of repetition over time. That's which is why, again, we talked about diets. They don't work because there's not enough time for them to work.
Right. Exactly.
And when you talk about language, it's a function of time. You got to keep on telling yourself the good things. And don't lie to yourself. Even if what you told yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 was only a 1, well, the 1 was better than the negative.
Right.
So keep on going in that. Just keep it going. And whatever you don't like, then you have a plan to work with that so that it gets better. That's all. And all this works.
Yeah. So powerful. This is so great. Is there anything else that you want to add or share that we didn't get a chance to talk about today before we wrap up?
Something that I tell people, and it's become kind of this infectious thing in our society, is we're trying to get everything about ourselves from what's outside of ourselves. It's never going to work. The reason we're able to get better is because everything's already inside us, but we have to kind of unpile the junk and then start working with what we already have. The power is already in there, so to speak. All the things that intellectually, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it's all in there. We have to start working with that, give it some time to develop, and not focus on that outside influence and pleasing who's out there and being part of that herd mentality, if you will. We got to come back to ourselves and say, this is who I want to be. I'll create it. I don't care what anyone thinks about it. I'm going to be okay with that and go inside and get what's in there. And if you need help, the other thing I tell people is find a qualified person, not a coach. Go find a person that is skilled, that has the intense training you need, because that training translates into reference points where when you bring something up, they're going to say, yeah, I got that. I not only I learned about it, I experienced it in that setting, or I've had many people in that. And so get someone who, vet that person, make sure they have the training, make sure they have the degrees are important. We're trying to, everyone's trying to wash those away. Those are important. And then get help, be okay, feel worthy enough to say, yeah, I'm worthy of that time.
Yeah. And I think knowing the difference. So I just had not a great experience with a coach, actually. It was like a business coach, but they kind of dabble on like emotional stuff and brought up a lot of trauma, and a lot of the people and a lot of us left because it was like you were bringing trauma up, but didn't have the credentials or backing to help us process it.
Right.
And I think there's it's like there can be value in certain coaches and all that stuff for certain things. But just understand that if you are going to be talking about anxiety, depression, any sort of trauma you've been through, anything like that, you really want to have a qualified professional working through that with you, because it's going to get harder before it gets easier. And you want to have the right support because you don't want to do more harm than good. And I think that's really important. So yeah, definitely vet out who you choose to speak with and get help from.
And you'll know right away. I've heard this many years and years. I've heard this when people come in, they'll say, you're engaged. I can see, what you're doing. In that first session, does this person have everything I need? Not that they make me feel better. Anyone can do that in the first setting. Are they going to challenge me? Are they going to go in and turn over all those rocks I've been trying not to turn over? Are they going to help me get to places that I typically don't go? Because I always tell people, get away from the people that use the acronyms and the catchy slogans and all that kind of stuff, because those are the people without the skills. That's why those of us that have them don't even go there.
Right.
We go to the causes of whatever's bothering you. So go and get someone who's really, really going to help you. And there are a lot of us out there, be willing to put the time in, make it part of your day, schedule it, don't say, I don't have the time for this in my life, because you seem to have the time for all the negativity. Well,
and that's the thing. I say it a lot, but I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to the listeners, but nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you're really tired of your current circumstance, you have to want a different outcome more than the current situation that you're going through. And so after a while, if you're fed up enough about it, you're going to have to do something about it. I don't know, no shade, nothing to our listeners, because my listeners are amazing. And everybody, honestly, people who listen to podcasts tend to just be more self-aware, but there's a lot of people in today's world that want change, but don't want to put the effort and the work behind it to do it. And either way, it's not easy, right? It's not easy to struggle with anxiety and depression and to feel, and to, struggle day to day. And it's also not easy, though, to heal that part and to try to get through it. But, it is worth it. So either way, it's not going to be easy, but it's let's pick a solution and let's pick, a path where it does get easier and that outcome is better, but you're going to have to put in a little bit of effort and change. You're going to have to make a couple compromises. You might not be able to watch all of your Netflix series, till 2 a.m., but you maybe could watch one episode and then go to bed.
And that is exactly the point. And you're touching on something that's very important to me, which if you're going to work on yourself, don't make this a chore. Yeah. Don't say, oh, God, I got to go to counseling. They want me to do this. Embrace this.
Yeah.
Have fun with the change. Enjoy enjoy all the changes you're making. It's sort of again, like you're working out. The first day, oh, my God, I came home. I was sore. I hated that. And then you're a month or two into it and you're saying, hey, this is fun. I'm seeing people. I'm challenging myself. I'm able to do that. I never thought I was going to do that. Now you're not going just to work with weights and get in shape. You're going because it's your time.
Yeah.
And that's what working on yourself should be, your time, and you should get to the point where you enjoy it. So if you can do that, you will stick with it. Yeah. Program that part of it. Let me get to the point where I'm going to enjoy it, where I look forward to making these changes. It's a lot easier than looking backward and waiting for the negative to come. Program fun into what you're doing.
Definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, Faust, it's been such a pleasure having you. Where can people find you, get your book? I think you mentioned Amazon, and if they want to follow up with you, have questions, where can they contact you?
Anyone that wants more information about me or the book, my website is faustruggiero.com. It's my name.com. Everything about the books is there. Contact me. I'm real good about getting back to people. Sometimes it's just a question someone has. That's fine. But everything you need to know about what we're doing is right on the website.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, guys. Make sure you check out his website and get the book when it comes out. It's been a pleasure. As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.